Okay. And hello, Gail and Etta and Trudy and Patricia and Marjorie and Panina and Pam and iPhone, whoever that is, and
Yeah. Hi.
Kate. So it's nice to see all of you. And I said before, some of you came on, is thank you again so much for the people, all of you, each of you who contributed to the Jewish Experience fundraising campaign. And, I thought that I wasn't involved in picking the theme, but the theme of, let's build, that's what we are engaged in. And it's, again, very positive that we've had such a strong focus on let's defend, let's rescue, let's do all these things that are in response to challenges. And that at the same time, we can't lose sight of the let's build. And the Jewish people have always done that. Again, going back to Miriam, that her name is Marim, which means bitterness, but it's also can be read as Merim, which means to lift up. And so in times of bitterness, it's just as important to lift up and raise and build as it is in times of prosperity. And I think the Jewish people have never forgotten that. They have really never forgotten that. I mean, even think about Rabbi Akiva during the edicts of the Romans that were, studying Torah was punishable by death, that he didn't stop studying Torah or teaching Torah or doing anything else because that is the life of the Jewish people. And that survived, even though many people didn't physically survive, that survived. And that is our Judaism that we have. It was, you could say it was, I won't say it was created because Judaism wasn't created by that, but it was solidified and amplified during a time of challenge and crisis, when you would expect that would be the time that there would be a decrease or at least a flat line of Judaism, everything that we have, our Jewish wisdom. Instead, it went on to a steep incline. It went up. So the Jewish people are always a little counterculture, doing not what you would expect. So when they push us, we actually go up. So I was really happy to participate in the campaign. If anybody would like to still make a contribution, I'm sure you can find one of my emails and you'd be welcome to. We would be very happy to have your support. So thank you. All right, let's start with our blessing. We're not going to do the Shema now because it's not 8 o'clock here. It's only 7. We haven't changed our clocks yet. So I want to make sure I showed up at the right time. But we'll start with our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. This week is Parsha Pikudei, the final parsha in the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. The Shabbos will be a Shabbat Chazak, where the Torah reader will conclude the book of Shemot and everyone will stand up. Jewish people around the world, meaning it in every sense of the word, Chazak, Chazak, v'nit chazek. Strong, strong, strength, and let us be strengthened by one another, by the Torah we have studied, by the wisdom that we have taken in, the inspiration that has hopefully penetrated our hearts, and we will be ready to go into Sefer Vayikra, which is known as Leviticus, which is just always such a strange name. Anyway, Vayikra and the calling of the Jewish people. But we will start with the Parsha of Pikudei. Before we get into Pikudei, I want to just go back a little bit, and we can do this because all of these parshas have been about the building of the Mishkan. Now, I know some of you are like, okay, finally we're going to be done with the Mishkan. Then we can go into sacrifices, which another subject that warms people's hearts. So let's talk about, though, the Mishkan, something that we spoke about last week. I just want to go back because I learned something else that I wanted to share with you. We spoke about the wise-hearted women spun the goat hair, that they did the spinning and the weaving for all of the different the curtains and things that were in the Mishkan, some with the beautiful fabrics and the cottons and the linens and all of the things that were involved with that. But the super wise-hearted women were the ones who spun the goat hair. And we said that according to not the Midrash, but in the Talmud, it says that the women spun the goat hair right off the goats, like while it was still on the goats. Can't really picture that totally. It's very funny here because it's been raining. We've had good rain. The hills around us are green by desert standards. And there are herds and herds of sheep and goats and camels all over and mules. I'm like, where am I living? So in the desert. So very biblical. So all of these goats, seeing these goats here, it's like, what are goats? So in the realm of animals, goats don't have a very high regard because goats, they kind of eat everything. They're kind of feisty. When I even went to the petting zoo at Bellevue Park, a goat was like trying to eat like my skirt with when I was there with my granddaughter. She thought it was hilarious. But they're not exactly considered the refined animal. It's not like a stallion or something like that. It's like a goat. So, and it's associated with Esau. It's kind of associated with kind of a more crude physicality. And goat hair, not alpacas, but goat hair is kind of tough and rough and everything like that. It's not exactly like, it's no one say, I have a goat hair, stole. It'd be like, it's not a mink. Not that anybody wants to have any of these things, but if you did, you didn't want goat hair. What does this represent? That the women were able to spin it and weave it. It says it's the women's talent to take this coarseness of the physical world, things that were ordinary, things that were a little rough around the edges, things that were not so refined, and they were able to make it into something beautiful and holy. And that's why it took. You thought they just were wise-hearted because they got the goat to stand still while they were spinning it. But it says the true wisdom of that is the ability to take things in the world, in our life, our situations, the physicality of our homes, and turn it into something holy. And that those coverings had a higher kedusha, a higher sanctity, even than the beautiful ones that had the cherubs, woven into them. It's like not anyone can do that, but kind of anyone can take beautiful, easy, lovely, refined materials and make something beautiful, lovely, and refined. It's like, okay, that's a skill. It's a different skill to take something that doesn't have any of those qualities and turn it into something that does. So I just wanted to add that on, that's considered a specific gift of women to cultivate the ability to do that. It's considered a spiritual talent that has to be cultivated, and it's cultivated through having an awareness of how Hashem wants us to operate in this world, how to use our physical gifts, our talents in the material world that is around us. The Jewish people are not anti-physicality. We're anti-materialism as an ism, but we are not against the physical world. We are pro the physical world. It's the tools that we've been given to use to create the holiness in our lives. So that's from last week about the wise-hearted women spinning the hair from the goats. This week, Parsha's Pikudei. What is Pikudei? Out of all of the parshas about the Mishkan, this one seems the most redundant. And let's take a look at it first on page 531. We're going to discuss two different aspects. One is just to start with, and then the second that I really want to go into. And I learned from a class that I went to yesterday from Rebbetzin Shira Smiles, which I really enjoyed. And just as an aside, my first of taking the bus, and I didn't get lost, and I took the bus and the train and another bus, and I was so excited. So anyway, I got there. That was the big thing. I took a selfie when I got there and sent it to Steve saying, I got here. So that was my big accomplishment. And then I got to enjoy this class. Page 531, Parsha's Pikudei. It says, what is Pikudei? It says, these are the reckonings of the tabernacle. What is this? This is the audit. This is the post-project audit. And what is this? What does this mean? Ela Pikudei HaMishkan. These are the reckonings of the tabernacle of testimony, which were reckoned at Moshe's bidding. And it says, why did Moshe command that there be an accounting done? So there's various commentary that say that there were some scoffers in the Jewish people, because there are always those people, that were like, Moshe, he seems like he's gotten a little richer recently. Not that there's any place to buy anything. I think he might have, I'm not saying anything, but he might have just taken some of the contributions and pocketed it for himself. And he was like, I took not one thing. So what he did get is, if you remember from the Midrashim that talk about when he carved out the second luchot, the second tablets, he did it out of sapphire. And it says, and God made a sapphire mine under his tent, and he was able to mine it right there. And God told him, like, as his payment, that when you're carving something out, when you carve stone, so there's the flecks of the stone that come out as you carve in. And God said, you can keep that. That's like your bonus for that's your payment. You get to keep that. So he had gotten wealthier. Again, there was no place to spend any of this money. So wasn't taking it with him, but he did have more money. But there were like, there's always the people who are like the naysayers and the skeptics. So Moshe was like, I took not one thing. And so he said, there's going to be an audit, and I will account for every single thing, tell you what it was, how much it was, where it went to. It is from this actually that we learn that people who are honest do accounting. Sometimes we think, why should I have to account to anybody? I'm honest. It's like, that's why you do account, is making an account. And when you're responsible, especially for other people's money, but even our own, because the money of really belongs to Hashem. It's been gifted to us, and we are accountable. And that's when we say somebody is accountable, it means accountable for our actions, our resources, how we spend them, how we use them. And so Moshe made an accounting. So that's what's going to unfold here. So we're going to leave that idea aside, because what we're going to go into now is, to me, such a fascinating exploration of the numbers that are in here, and we're going to ask questions rhetorically. I'm going to ask questions that we're going to answer together as we go through. So first of all, it mentions again that the builders, the people who were in charge, in verse 22, Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehuda, did everything that Hashem commanded Moshe. With him was Oholiav, son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan, a carver, weaver, and embroiderer with turquoise wool, purple, scarlet wool, and with linen. So the two people in charge of the project are Bezalel from the tribe of Yehuda and Oholiav from the tribe of Dan. So the first question is, and we want to hang on and remember, kind of put in your mind the tribe of Dan, because that's, we're going to come back to him and find out something important and significant for us to know. So the question is, why were those two put together? Says Bezalel is from the tribe of Yehuda, which is the most prominent tribe of the Jewish people. That's the tribe from whom kings come. So King David was from the tribe of Judah, from the tribe of Yehuda. Messiah will be from the tribe of Yehuda. So they're the kingly, the first ones in the encampment. They march first, they go first. Everything is always Yehuda. Who's last? Dan. It says Dan is last. They are the least of the tribes, not only because they are physically last. It says that they were always kind of the spiritual stragglers, so much so that when we had the attack of Amalek, when the Jewish people left Egypt, and after the splitting the sea, it says that Amalek attacked those who were kol hanechashalim, like all the weak ones, and you're thinking women and children and sick people, which it was not. It meant spiritually weak ones, and they were from the tribe of Dan. And one of the reasons they were spiritually weak, it says that they carried idols with them. They were not totally with the program. So they're considered the least of the tribe. But this effort to build the Mishkan really is describing the idea of people from the tribe of Yehuda. From Yehuda, it's like from saying from A to Z, from the top of the group to the bottom of the group. This effort for building the Mishkan is all inclusive. From those who are very dedicated and focused to those who are kind of not exactly part of the picture, but they're kind of in the picture, and they need to be in the picture. Okay, so hold on to that idea, because we're going to explore a very interesting elaboration on some numbers. Okay, so let's take a look. There were 3 metals that were used in the building of the Mishkan: gold, silver, and copper. Gold was considered the most precious, as it is. And let's take a look at verse 24. all the gold that was used for the work, for all the holy work, the offered up gold was 29 talents and 730 shekels in the sacred shekel. So it's telling you how much it was by weight. And now, what was it used for? It was used for all the holy work. So you might remember, does anyone remember what was built out of gold? What things, if you want to unmute, you can say, what was built out of gold? Etta.
The keruvim.
The keruvim.
The inner parts of the ark.
Right,
gold.
the inner part and the outer part, because it was around wood. So yes, exactly. The Aron HaKodesh, the ark was out of gold. What else was out of gold? Anything else?
The altar.
Yes, the golden altar and the menorah. Okay, the menorah. Were those your fingers up for Pam for the menorah? Okay, I got that. Even though you had 10 fingers up, I knew you meant the menorah. Okay, so we have the menorah. So those are all the things that were in the Holy of Holies and in the Holy. So everything holy was done with gold. And it doesn't elaborate there. It just says all the gold that was used for the work, for all the holy work, and it tells you the total amount. Great. Then we're actually going to skip ahead for a moment, and we're going to go to the next page, page 29, not page 29, verse 29 on page 533. And we're going to go, so we just did gold, and that just said what the total was, and it was used for all the holy things. Nothing else said. And we know the total amount. Okay, so that's that accounting. Now we're going to go to the least valuable metal, which is the copper. Verse 29, the offered up copper was 70 talents and 2,400 shekel. See how precise this is? It's like, here's like 50 shekels and 10 agarot. I mean, it's really giving you exactly how much was collected. And with it, he made, and then it's going to say everything that was made. The sockets of the entrance of the tent of meeting, the copper altar, the copper meshwork, the vessels of the altar, the sockets, the courtyard, all around the sockets of the courtyard, the pegs, tabernacle, and all the pegs of the courtyard all around. Okay, so this is interesting. The metal that is the least valuable gives us the most information on specifically what it was used for. It's like saying, I used 5 pennies on this and 10 pennies on this and this with this, and the gold I used for all the holy things. That a person, when we are taking account, we often think we only need to account for the big things and not for the small things. The small actions, the small uses, the small decisions we make, that's where the details, that's where the honesty is seen. So he's describing the copper, this least expensive thing. You can say, who cares where the copper went? It's like, incidentals. Like it wasn't incidentals. Here's a list of everything that it went to. But it doesn't say, what it doesn't say is it tells you how much the total amount of copper was, 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. And then it gives a list that it was all used for the following list. It doesn't say how much copper went for the altar and how much went for the meshwork and how much went for the sockets and how much went for the gate. It doesn't tell you that detail. It just tells you this is the copper and it went for all of these things. Okay, so that's a different kind of accounting is the copper. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to see, where does silver come in? How is the silver counted? Okay, because it's, just think about even like in awards, you get your gold medal, your silver medal, copper, okay, your bronze or whatever. Next. So let's see about the silver and the information we are given and why we are given this information, other than somebody, an accountant gave you a job and said, please make an accounting of this and give us, narrative to go along with it. So we want to know, it's the Torah. So what is it that we're going to learn about the silver? Why are we given the information? Why are we given these particular details? And what does it have to teach us? So let's go back to page 531, and we're going to find out about the silver. Verse 25, the silver of the census of the community was 100 talents, 1,775 shekels in the sacred shekel. Okay, what are they talking about? It says a beka for every head, a half shekel in the sacred shekel for everyone who passed through the census takers from 20 years age and up, for the 603,550. Okay, What are we talking about? Does anybody remember from last week was Parshat Shekalim? And we read from Parsha Kitisa, and we read about the collection of the half shekel. Remember that? The half shekels. Close. It's not going to be sockets. It's going to be something else. We're going to learn what it is. So these half shekels that everybody gave, it says we're going to say the men who were 20 years old and over, representing the entire Jewish people, gave a half shekel. What does that equal? So here's the math. It's kind of like, I don't know if you can put it in your phone to convert it. So that's why it's called the silver of the census, because there was an account. There was a count made based on the collection of this half shekel. So what did it add up to be? It added up, all those half shekels added up to 100 talents, 1,775 shekel. So that's like the change. Okay. We had given all that information. And then we're told how it was used. And it's going to branch off. So look at verse 27. It said the 100 talents of silver. I'm sorry, Rhoda. I apologize. I apologize. Yes, the 100. I apologize. I'm so focused on what I'm going to say next that I corrected you and you corrected me. Correct. Thank you.
It was used for the sockets.
Yes. So the 100 talents of silver were to cast the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets of the partition. 100 sockets for 100 talents. What are those 100 talents? Those 100 sockets? It says that was money given by the silver collected from the 600,000 people. There's just one thing. There were more than 600,000 people. We always say there's 600,000 Jews. That's what we would say, the root number 600,000. But go back now to the end of verse 26 on the previous page. From 20 years of age and up for the how many? 603,550. So yes, they were the foundation of the Mishkan. 603,550. So there aren't 600,000, there's 603,550. So if you were going to say, who are there's extra. We always talk about 600,000. That means that there are really 3,550 extra people who we don't kind of think of as in the count. Okay, that number is important. 3,550. So the silver that was collected from 600,000 go, as Rhoda just said, it went to the sockets for everything for the sanctuary, the things that were like within the holy place. But then we have extra, because we have these extra people. Verse 28 on the next page. And from the 1,775, he made hooks for the pillars. What is 1,775? 1,775 is half of the 3,550. Those 3,550 people who each gave a half shekel, they also gave the half shekel, equals 1,775 shekels of silver. Why am I separating out the silver that I got from the 600,000 from the silver I got from these extra people, the 3,550? Like, are they chop liver? It's like, how come? And I used all the silver that was from the 600,000 people. I used that for the sockets for the sanctuary. And then I'm going to use the silver from these extra people to make hooks for the pillars, covering their tops and banding them together. So what happens to the extra people? The extra people's silver turns into hooks. The 600,000 people's silver turns into sockets. Now, you or I might say, okay, big deal. I'm a socket, I'm a hook, like what difference does it make? But there was a big difference. The sockets were all in the Mishkan. They were all inside. These hooks were not really inside. They were holding things and they protruded outside. So they weren't really in, they were kind of out. During this accounting, it says, why is this separated out here of the listing of these extra people and this extra silver? According to the Midrash, it says that Moshe actually forgot what he did with the silver that was from these people. It's like, yeah, I know what I did with the money for the 600,000. I'm not remembering what I did with the rest of it. And he forgot. Now, this is Moshe Rabbeinu. What does it mean he forgot? So, beautiful comment on it. It says, who were these extra people? It says, these extra people were the people who we talked about, like from the tribe of Dan, who were not so into it. They kind of forgot their relationship with Hashem, and so they had idols with them. They kind of forgot to really be engaged. They kind of forgot. And as I say, measure for measure, midah keneged midah, since they were the forgetful ones, the disconnected Jews. So Moshe forgot, God caused Moshe to forget about what happened to their silver. You forget this, I forgot that. You forget, so I also forget. That there is a measure for measure, and it was forgotten. Until the strangest thing, it says that then Hashem enabled Moshe to remember. How did he remind him? Said he sent a message from far into the future from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva reminded Moshe that the silver went for the hooks. Like, okay, I know Rabbi Akiva is an important person, but what does he have to do with that? And why would he be reminding Moshe? It says, who is Rabbi Akiva? Do you ever hear the story that says that when Moshe was getting the Torah, it says that God was busy attaching crowns onto the letters of the Torah. And that Moshe was like, what are these? So I just want to share the screen in case you haven't had a chance to see the way that Torah is written with the crowns, because this is going to be important. We're going to see, do you see these letters here that have these crowns up here? So there's certain letters when it's written in the Torah, when it's written in a mezuzah or tefillin, that have these crowns. And says that God was busy tying the crowns onto the letters. And so Moshe had to wait for the ink to dry, literally. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that. It says, what are these crowns? So Moshe says to God, like, what are these crowns? And God says to Moshe, I'm going to whiz you into the future and I'm going to show you. And he brings Moshe into Rabbi Akiva's study hall. And Rabbi Akiva is expounding on the secrets of these crowns. And Moshe doesn't even understand what Rabbi Akiva is talking about. Because like they had this great, tremendous mystery and power to them. And he's explaining it to his students. And then Rabbi Akiva says, and this comes from Moshe from Har Sinai. Moshe's like, oh, he credited me, but I don't actually know what he's talking about. So Rabbi Akiva, and we know that he was deep into the knowledge of the mysteries of the Torah and the oral tradition, said he was the one who's the master of the crowns. There's like books that you can get, like Rabbi Akiva, the master of the crowns, explaining the crowns. And we don't have full knowledge of them until Mashiach comes, and then we'll know more about the crowns. It says, what does this mean? The crowns. It says, what are the crowns? It says, they're not the letters. And a scroll can be kosher without the crowns. They're extra and they're out of the there's kind of out of the picture. On one hand, they're out, but on the other hand, they're on top, and so they're called crowns. So they're out, but they're crowns. What is Rabbi Akiva when he's reminding Moshe about the silver from these people who are kind of on the outside? He's saying, yes, they're not with the program yet. And yes, they're very detached and they are disenchanted, disenfranchised, whatever you want to call it. But they can be connected. They can be hooked in. And what are the hooks? Those are called a vavim. Vav means, you use a vav, literally means a hook. And in a word in Hebrew, if you say something va something else, it means and. This and that. So Moshe, you're right that they're not connected and they forgot, and so you forgot, but I'm here to remind you that the very people who you're ready to kind of this, yes, they're kind of protruding outside of the Mishkan, they can be brought in. They must be brought in. They are valuable. They're silver. They are precious. And they are the hooks, and they're not just the hooks, because it goes on to say, take a look again, verse 28. And from the 1,775, meaning the silver from these people who are kind of on the outside, he made hooks. He made vavim. That's what they're called. He made hooks for the pillars, covered their tops. So it's made them like crowns and banded them and put them together. So here we have what looks like a simple description of a building design, but what Rabbi Akiva and what these hooks really are representing, specifically in their specific numbers, the people who are kind of on the outside, who are protruding from the Mishkan. They're not in the holy area, that's true, but they can be brought in. And that the truth is that all of us are like those hooks, but we have the preciousness of the silver. We are precious. And like Rabbi Akiva says, they have the potential to be the thing that holds everything together. They are the hooks for the pillars. They're not, they're not nothing. They are the hooks for the pillars. They cover the tops and they band them. That silver was used for something special. So don't forget them. So this is what the sages then call that Rabbi Akiva reminded Moshe about the value and then reminded him where that money went. Okay, so this is why it says it's separated out, because otherwise it should have read like the copper. It should have said the total amount of silver, and it was used for sockets and hooks and banding in the top and the crowns. It should have just said that. It didn't have to say first we had the people who are on the inside, the special people, then we have the people who are not really so with it. The people who we might think we should dismiss, be done with them, have them out of the pictures. Like, no, don't do that. Rabbi Akiva, who remember also is a descendant of converts, says that it's someone who came to purify their soul, to join in, who was definitely outside the camp of the Jewish people. And as someone who converted, came in. And the people who are on the outside, when they come in, they can be some of the best, most talented, most giving, most brilliant, when they bring their qualities, whatever it was that got them sidetracked on the outside of the camp, can be repurposed, melted down, and used to hook them in. And it's our obligation to do that.
Ellen,
yes,
Ellen,
yes.
is those letters that had the crowns on them, is it an acronym of any kind? Is it
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
the acronym is Shatnez GATS. Okay, so it is what is it? Shatnez. I'm not going to remember all of them. Shin, Tet, Nun, Zion, Gimel, Tzadi. Shatnez GATS. And it not only is it that the acronym, but it spells something is in addition. What is it? The word, it's not like shatnez, like you shouldn't wear shatnez of the blending of linen and wool. Shatnez here it says that those letters can be rearranged to spell Satan, Oz. Satan, Oz. Satan meaning Satan, and Oz of strength. And it says, what are those letters? It says those letters that spell like the strength of Satan. Satan is the force that impedes us, that distracts us, that moves us off course. It says that those letters that spell that out need strengthening to oppose them. If you look, and we'll go back just to a moment, I'll show you this again. It's interesting what they're called. These little decorations here at the top, these crowns, they're called spears. There's like weapons. It's like a weapon on top of the letter. It says, what's the weapon? To fight against the Satan. It's to fight against that power, because the people who are on the outside they've succumbed. You know, their environment, the influences, the movies they watch, the people they talk to, the company they keep, all these things, like they've drifted for a reason, and they have been pulled out. So it says we want to strengthen them so that they can come back in. Now, what's interesting is that we are really, people, it says that we're all kind of like the tribe of Dan, that even people who are with the program and are engaged, that we have a heck of a time. We are just barely hanging on. We are really, really trying. And we have the greatest, what are called nisyonot. We have the greatest challenges. This is the people of our generation have more challenges in a day than some people had in their lifetime. Think about the challenges that people have just with with social media. The things that are available to come in and taint us and distract us and ruin us they're sitting in the palm of our hands. Just as an aside, I actually had a dream the other night that I was trying to do something. I thought I was trying to use my phone, but I was actually touching my hand, why can't I get Waze up on my hand? It's like, well, because your hand is not your phone, even though your phone is always in your hand. So all of these things are in our faces, and we have the surrounding cultures around us. It's a miracle. It is a total miracle that we are hanging in as well as we are. This also motivated me for the Jewish Experience fundraiser. It's like, we need strengthening. We need a Shabbat Chazak of this parsha of Pikudei. We're doing an accounting. So how does this all shake out here for us? So it goes even further than just these here. Is like, let's take a look. We're going to go to page 529, which is actually back in the very end of Parsha Vayakel, where it's also describing these hooks. So we're going to go to, hold on one second. Hold on, where am I? Verse 17. Oh, okay. Okay. Verse 17 on page 529, it says the sockets of the pillars were copper. Okay, because we're setting aside copper. We want to focus on the hooks of the pillars, and their bands were silver, and the plating of their tops were silver. Okay, so this is another description, recap of what we had there. But what we're going to do is look at the Hebrew. So the Hebrew of that in verse 17 is, we're going to pick it up at Vave. I'm sorry, we're going to pick it up at Vitsipui. It's kind of the second, in my chumash, it's the second word from the end on the left-hand side. Vitsipui Roshechem Kasef Vehem Mechushakim Kesef. Okay, do you see that? For those of you who know Hebrew. And that's the description that we just read, only that's the Hebrew. It says, what is this? It says, these words mean something totally different in addition to what they actually mean on the surface. It says, how does God feel about our generation and the other people in every generation who are just barely hanging in there, or who have not? Is he like, I'm done with all of you? It's just like, no, it's like the opposite. How does he feel about these hooks, these silver things that were from I'm just gonna call them the fringe folks, which is all of us at this point? It says here, v'tzipui. The word tzipui means to hope. It's one of the questions we're asked after we pass away. Tzipiha HaMashiach, did you anticipate and hope for Mashiach to come? Did you live with that kind of hopefulness and anticipation? It is God hoping that God has tzipui, that he has this tzipui, this feeling of hope. Tzipui Roshehem. What is the word Rosh? It means a head or a leader. A Rosh HaYeshiva is the head of the yeshiva. Tzipui Roshehem. He has hope that these hooks are going to become leaders, that there's anticipation, a hopefulness for their leaders. Kasef. The word kasef, which is silver, also means to desire. Okay, nichsoch nisafti is from a phrase that we sing on Friday night, Yedid Nefesh, that I have a desire for my beloved relationship with Hashem. So this word kasef is that Hashem has this hopefulness that we become leaders and that he desires, and mechushakim, the word mechushakim comes from the word cheshek. A cheshek is I'm longing for you. I'm waiting for you. I'm longing for you. I'm hoping for you. I know you will be the leaders. I know you can be hooked in. I know that you can come and take your rightful place. And I know that I will be able to put a crown on your head. When was that crown going to come? It's going to come at the end. And when does it come? It says in the very month that we are in. It says the way we have the encampment of the Jewish people, the 12 tribes, parallels the 12 months of the Hebrew year. Nisan's the first from the tribe of Yehuda. That was Betzalel. The last month of the year is the month of Adar, and that's done. And we're now in a year where we have 13 months. So it's like Adar. It's like the fringe of the fringe. It's like we're getting as far away as you can get is how far away we are. But who is the one who signifies that? This is the holiday that we have in this farthest off month is the month where the one who is low becomes the queen, where the one who is hidden becomes the revealed. It says, what is this? And so now we're going to go to the Megillah. And we're going to see, how does God feel about, I'll say, the month of Adar, the Jewish people at the end of history, not the end of hopefully all of history, but at the end of our process of who we are becoming and meant to be as we journey through the long, long road of Jewish life. How does God feel about us? We just said that God has hope that we will become the rulers, that will become the heads, and that he's has such a yearning for us and such a desire for us to take our rightful place. And what is he ready to do? Let's turn to the Megillah Esther, because this is what happens in Adar. This is our kind of like our script for what we're doing. So on page 1254 is you'll find the Megillah. And we want to find chapter 2, verse 17, which is a little past halfway down. And it says, the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won more of his grace and favor than all the other girls. So he set the royal crown upon her head. So what is it? We have a basic idea in the study of Megillah that if it doesn't say Hamelech Achashverosh, if it doesn't say Achashverosh the king or King Achashverosh, and it just says Hamelech, the king, that we mean God. That's what we're talking about. Hamelech, the king. So what is this? This is the king, Hashem. What is he feeling? The king loved Esther more than all the other women. Now, before we look at just Esther as a name, what does Esther mean? Esther comes from the word Hester. There's a quote that says, Esther min Torah ayin. From where do we have a reference to Esther in the Torah? And where we have a reference is in Devarim and Deuteronomy, which it says, Va'anochi, and I, God, Hester astir panim bayom hahu. I will surely hide my face from the Jewish people. It's going to feel like you don't see me at all. And that we are in, that's like we describe this time that we're going through now as a time of Hester panim. That was like, God, like, what is going on? Where are we? So it's like we are in Hester panim, and we've been in Hester panim for a while with glimpses of redemption and revelation, but it's a Purim time. It's a Purim time of our lives. It says, and how does, on one hand, you think, what's God's attitude toward us during a time of Hester panim? You'd think it'd be like, I'm hidden and I'm done with you. It's like the opposite. And God loved the Hester, us in a time of hiddenness, more than all of the other times, and set the crown upon her head. I will take your silver and put it, as we said, it's going to be not just the hooks, but also the top. It's also going to be the crown, just like the crowns of the letters of the Torah, the crown on the tops of where the hooks were, and banded together, and it will all come together. We are being told that what's the ultimate pekude, what's the ultimate accounting, is in the end, everyone will be accounted for. There is not going to be, they're out. I mean, there's something that people could do that will take them out, but we're talking about just the general people in our lives. They're going to come back in. And how are they going to come back in? Hopefully through us. It says that we are supposed to radiate the commitment, the joy, the happiness, the brightness that comes from connecting to our Jewish life, to our Jewish wisdom. We are supposed to be a walking Mishkan. Those hooks are not standing out there random, nothing. They're all part of the Mishkan. So yes, they're kind of sticking out, but they're still part of the Mishkan. This is the accounting of the Mishkan. When we make ourselves into the Mishkan itself, a miniature version of the holiness, where we have the inner parts, we've got the gold, we've got the menorah, the spiritual light, we've got the ark, we have the Torah that we're observing and putting into practice, and we have the altar, and we're doing the service, and we are doing what we're supposed to do. It says, then we have a chance of being able to bring people in, but we also have to look for them, that there is a chance that they're kind of slipping away, and even parts of ourselves that tend to slip away, that we have to find the parts of ourselves that are kind of poking out of the Mishkan as well, and yank us ourselves back in and hook us together and show that we have the ability to make a huge contribution. Every single person matters. So we know that we say that if somebody saves one Jewish life, that they've saved an entire world. And same thing if someone destroys a human life, they have destroyed a whole world. We really believe that. Obviously, there are people in this world who really, really don't, but we really do. And so it is each of our obligations to bring others into the Mishkan and help them see that they themselves are part of the Mishkan, and that they themselves are a Mishkan, that they are also a holy place. When people find that out and finally figure that out, they usually like run circles around the rest of everybody else. It's like, wow. In fact, I know like many people who have joined the Jewish people by choice. People always say, oh, they're so into it, like, wow, like there's so much more into it. Or people who are born Jewish, but not so engaged, and then find themselves more engaged, are usually much more enthusiastic. I remember people saying to me, I kind of wish I wasn't from birth, because I'm just like used to it. Like you like actually seem excited about it. It's like, I am. So that that when somebody is privileged to be able to come in, what they can bring and contribute can actually outshine everybody else. And they are the crown. They are the Hester that becomes the Malka, Esther that becomes the queen. And God says, I'm putting the crown on your head because you're the one actually who's at the top. You're not forgotten. You're not ejected. You are returned and in place and in the right place. So the Rebbitzin Smiles, who told this story to us yesterday, it's happened a number of years ago. And it was an Israeli, very, very secular guy who finished the army. And where do Israelis go when they finish the army? It's like, what was that? India, yeah, India, Thailand. Now it's Thailand. I think at this time it was India. I think he went to India. He's wandering around and he ends up like by himself, and he ends up like in some small village. And he goes into like this shop, or he goes into this place and he meets this person, and the person, he introduces himself. He says like, oh, what's your name or something? He said his name. He's like, oh, where are you from? And so he said, I'm from Israel. And he said, you're from Israel? Are you a Jew? And he's like, yeah. He goes, you have to come with me right now. I have to take you to our community. We've been hearing about and talking about the Jews from Israel, and we want you to give us a blessing. And this guy's like, okay. He's like, what are they going to do to me? He didn't know what he's going to. They call this little village together, and they have this guy sit down. Here's a Jew from Israel, guys. It's like, can you give us a blessing? We know the Jewish people have the power to bless people, and will you bless us? And so he was like, okay. So he's like saying, I don't know what he said, like a blessing to each of these people. And they then like brought him all these gifts. And so they brought him all these gifts. So then he's going to go back to his hotel in like some bigger place. And he goes back and he's like schlepping along all of these gifts. And he goes into his hotel room. He sits down on his bed. And what does he do? Sobbing. These people in India know what a Jew from Israel is. I have no clue what a Jew from Israel is. I don't even know what's so special. Why are they so excited? So he went back to Israel and he contacted a Kiruv rabbi and said, like, these people were so excited that I was a Jew. I'm like, I don't even know why they were so excited. He started learning, made a 180 in his life, married, children, learns, author of books or something, and like a whole big thing. And he is like on fire. It's like, where did that come from? Like he was in that silver. He was hardly in the Mishkan at all. And someone else went like, you are special. Like, you're a Jew from Israel. Gosh. So I remember in Denver when we were walking to shul, I shared this at the time. And yes, he gave them a blessing, gave every single one of them a blessing. I don't know what he said, but he said something like, anyone can come up with a blessing. You don't have to be Jewish even to do that. But they thought, coming from a Jew from Israel, like this was like the most amazing thing. But I remember Steve and I walking to shul in our neighborhood, which was not a Jewish neighborhood, and somebody outside wanting us to says, I know that God blesses the Jewish people, and anyone who the Jews bless will be blessed. And, thank you. And like, I want to shake your hand. And like, they were so amazing. So we don't even know. I know the time that we are living in now, this may be a little not on our radar screen in the same way. People have designs, but there are many, 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 many people who have the highest regard for the Jewish people and respect, and their voices may be silenced and quiet right now, which is horrible and sad, but they are there, and that will return. I saw a question about the crowns. I have no idea how many crowns there are. I have no idea. I'm sorry. So this idea of like the Jewish people is like every single Jewish person, even the secular person who didn't even know who he was, he didn't even know he was in the Mishkan at all, was somebody who was able to be shown how special he was, and he found himself. So God willing, we find ourselves and we know how special we are. I've send out like all these things on Facebook and post everything. I was so impressed that Was it Elton John? No, who was it? Elton John? Who invited the Miss Universe from Iraq, who can't go back to Iraq because she like took a picture with the Israeli Miss Universe contestant and invited her, and her dress was about, bring the hostages home. And he also invited one of the women hostages. Yes, that's why I told when we were walking in Denver, this person who wanted us to bless them because we were Jews and he knew from the Bible that God blesses the Jewish people and the blessing comes through the Jewish people. It's like I didn't know we were that special, but people, they really do know it. They really do know it. So anyway, going back to the Academy Awards, in the face of like the horrific self-hating Jews who stood up there to refute their Jewishness, and it's like so outrageous. I don't know. And then you have this person who's like Miss Iraq of all places, like Miss Iraq knows what's right. Like, okay. The world is a little flipped around, but this is the time, v'nahafochu, is that things are upside down and will be turned to right. We just have to remember which side is up. When they test pilots, one of the things that makes me nauseous even to see the film, I don't remember the movie, Top Gun. Is it Top Gun? Where they are studying to become like the Air Force flight people. And the things that they do, they get dizzy and they don't know which way is up, and you can end up crashing your plane because they think up is down and down is up, unless they read their instruments. If they don't read their instruments right and they go based on sight, they crash. So the world is a little bit like that now, where up is down, down is up, good is bad, and bad is good. So it's very, very mixed up. And the main thing is, when you're in that situation, what do they tell the pilots? You must trust your instrument. You must trust something that is outside of your perception in order to be safe and to be on the right track. That's what Torah wisdom, our community, our history, we have to keep our eyes on that so that we do not get our heads turned upside down by the upside downness of the rest of the world. So it'll come back to where it's supposed to be. In the meantime, we focus on what we're supposed to do, is building the Jewish people, building ourselves, bringing people in, creating vavs, creating the hooks to help people connect and feel part of it and recognize their contributions, their qualities, their skills, their gifts, their talents, their uniqueness. And that's what we bring in. And it's for that reason, and that reason only, that we have this separate accounting of the 100 talents for the main people and the specific, what do we do with these extra people? What happens to the people who are kind of on the outside? They must be accounted for. And hopefully we will count for everyone, because in the end, everybody is included in the total. God willing, we'll build ourselves into a Mishkan all of these weeks that we've been focused on it, learning various aspects of it, that we will realize there's ever so much more to learn, from even small little lines discussing where the silver is, how it was collected, how much it was, and what we did with it. So to be continued next year, God willing, when we come to this parsha, and chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. You should have a wonderful Shabbat chazak, and we will get ready to start parsha Vayikra.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ellen,
Yes,
I have
Andy.
a question. When we did the last one on page 1255, what, you said 17? I
Yes.
couldn't find it.
I'm sorry. I apologize. 1254.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize. 1254,
Okay,
verse 17. I thank you, Andy. The king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won
Okay,
grace and
thank
favor
you.
the other girls, so that he set the royal crown upon her head. I apologize. Yes,
Thank you.
1254.
Thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
I didn't find it.
All right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. Yasher Koach.
Baruch Tia, enjoy this last parsha of the beautiful Mishkan. we should be blessed to have the rebuilding of our holy temple in Yerushalayim.
Amen.
The right time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Ellen?
Yes. Hi, Gabi.
Hi, so Patricia, my mentor, piano teacher, came to visit for almost 2 weeks and I had to drive her to her a very important appointment, so that's why I'm so late. Did you teach about Purim today? I don't know what you taught about.
Not really. The recording will be up, but it was really about the parsha of Pekudei.
Pico Day, okay, so it's about the Mishkan still, and I know that you cannot give me a review, but Mishkan
Yes.
and
Yes, about the Mishkan and the silver hooks. If you have a chance to listen to the recording, I think you'll appreciate it.
silver what?
Hooks, the vavim.
Books, B-O-O-K-S? I'm driving, sorry.
A vav, a hook.
Oh, the hooks, the valves.
Yes.
About the hooks in the Mishkan. Got it. Okay, the connecting. Okay. Toda Rabba. And I'm so sorry. My loss, of course, I was 10 things going on at once. So I'm very sorry.
I'm sure you were doing exactly what you were supposed to be doing.
Well, I wish I wasn't at 11 o'clock, but what can I do? So thank God you record. Thank you so much. And I hope you and Steve are okay and the kids.
Thank you. Yes, the kids are actually coming to spend Shabbos with us. So I'm going to
You have a lot to
go make
prepare.
my
Okay.
challah now.
And you don't have snow tomorrow like us. There's a big storm coming up.
No, I know. Steve saw that. So no, we had like 80 degrees today. So it was really beautiful.
That's good. Lots of love and my apologies.
I missed you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Call to Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.